Don't trust your remote employees. A recent study from Forrester Research found that 70% of leaders has more trust in their in-office workforce than in people working remotely. What are they seeing that others aren't? Let's talk about it over a cup of coffee. Welcome to Virtual Coffee Chat with Luís for Think Remote. Today is Thursday. I hope your week is going well. Remember, nothing gets done on Friday. So this is your last great shot. And if things have been going well for you through the week, congratulations, you earned it. Now, let's talk about this study and let me explain why you should not indeed trust your remote employees. The study says that there's a perception that remote workers are less productive and less trustworthy, right? Remote employees, the majority of them report higher levels of productivity out of the office. And yet only 5% of the decision makers said they believe remote workers are more productive. And 70% said that they trust work in office workers more. Okay, what shall I do with this? Well, why am I telling you not to trust your remote employees? I mean, I am one of the remote guys. I do these videos for a website that's all about remote. Remote is in my blood. I would not want to work any other way ever again. But I hate this Forrester study because it really smacks of propaganda and it is dismissive of people's worries because, I mean, it was commissioned by LogMeIn, which obviously LogMeIn is a company that highly benefits from people working remotely. And as I discussed in a previous coffee, not everyone benefits from working remotely, right? I bet that as things turn out, about a third of the population will have better performance in an office. Another third will have better performance with a mixed solution. And finally, a third of people will be like me, that they do their best work and their more thorough work remotely. So instead of dismissing these people's concerns, let's actually see why they might be onto something. And if you really enjoy remote and if you really want your company to be remote friendly, or if you're looking at that as an option, let's see what you can do to mitigate the necessity for trust. I mean, first of all, these are legitimate worries grounded in real bad experiences, right? I've never heard of someone who has built businesses remotely that never had one or two bad sheep, right? People that look great on paper, they look great during the hiring process, and then they just don't do nothing. They don't achieve nothing. They keep coming up with excuses. Cat on fire, kid's school burn, etc., etc. Tornado took my car and smashed it with a more expensive car. Now I have to pay insurance, something like that. I don't know. There's 1,000 of excuses that I have heard. And I have lost money and my business has lost money because I hired the wrong people. And I made the mistake of blindly trusting instead of finding a system, right? So that's where I want to be. And that's where I want you to be if you're considering remote work. Productivity should be something objective, not subjective. We shouldn't be needing to ask an employee's feelings on if they were more productive or a leader's feelings on if their employees were more productive. There's metrics for this kind of stuff. Find better ways to measure it and go by the deliverables versus time worked or presence, right? You can trust your if the measure for trust for the in-office employees is the time that they spend on the office, I think that's a pretty, maybe you trust them to be in the office. Of course, they say that they'll be in the office and they are. So you are right in trusting them because they said they would do something, they would be somewhere, and there they are. So sure, but is that actually being beneficial for you? How productive are they being, right? You should measure it instead of having feelings about it, right? Find a way, set KPIs, find a way to measure the deliverables. Tell people what they are expected to deliver within with time frame. Then at the end of that time frame, evaluate on that, have a conversation with that, figure out if what's the reality between your expectations and their capacity, and adjust accordingly, right? A good tip also comes from Automatic, right? The makers of WordPress, they have a fully remote workforce, and they stress the concept of API, assume positive intention. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, this means that when something doesn't work out, right, you should assume that the person has good intentions, right? The person working on something, they didn't deliver. You should assume that they had the intention of delivering and something went, and something didn't go according to plan, right? So this might sound very similar to trust, but actually it isn't, because trust happens on an individual level, right? You trust your employee, and conversely, your employee can also trust or not you, depending on your actions as a boss, right? But assume positive intention is a system. It's like the systems that many legal systems adopt that say that a man is innocent until proven guilty. That's a system that has nothing to do with trust. Now, obviously, this system can be abusable if you don't do a couple of things. And those are, number one, hire slowly and fire quickly, right? Be as thorough as possible on your hiring process, or have good hiring partners to help you. And then once someone is working, right, keep them accountable to the things that you agreed on, right? Keep them accountable to their deliverables. Have a conversation with them at the end of your work cycle, be that 2 weeks or be it a month, and say, hey, here's what needed to happen and didn't happen. Why is this? Were my expectations too high? Is there a problem with the workflow, et cetera, et cetera? Figure it out. I mean, leave the person, don't threaten people, obviously, but make it not uncertain, right? Leave it in no uncertain terms that they didn't match the expectations, and let's figure out ways to improve it, right? If after the second work cycle there's no improvement, right, things aren't going well, then that's the time to fire. You shouldn't hang on to someone if they're not working. And of course, this implies number two, set up expectations. You can't judge someone for not accomplishing if you didn't really set expectations. You can't judge someone for having bad communication if you did not set communication expectations. I learned this lesson the hard way. And now when someone joins my team, what I do is I have a document that's our marketing team agreement, and they read it, and all everything that I expect from them and that their teammates expect from them is there communicated. And by the way, anyone in the team can add or to submit suggestions to change that document. So none of these things, right? Measuring productivity, measuring deliverables versus time worked and presence, assuming positive intention, hiring slowly and firing quickly, setting up expectations. None of this requires trust, right? Trust is cool. Not saying that trust is bad, but trust is a next level thing that pays dividends in the long term and that you can build in different ways. But it shouldn't be a requirement for measuring productivity or performance or any of that, right? When you have on paper someone's productivity and you've negotiated the expectations and you've assumed positive intention, you don't need trust at all. And actually, conversely, working under this process, working with these systems over time, that's what will build trust. And then, once you have trust, once you build rapport, etc., those people will not meet your baseline of productivity. They will be super productive because they will have a stake in the game. They will have a personal connection with you and your enterprise, right? So trust is a huge benefit, but it shouldn't be required. So no, you should not trust your remote employees, just like you should not trust any employees. Trust, and they shouldn't trust you as well, right? It's something that you built. Trust is something that you built, and as such, it should not be a requirement, right? Because when you hire someone, you didn't have the time to build anything. Anyway, I barely had time to sip my coffee. Sorry, I got excited. I get excited with these things sometimes. In any case, if you want to build trust, that's probably an altogether different conversation, right? There are many ways to build trust, and they don't necessarily require you to be in the office. So they are facilitated for people being in an office. I grant you that. Proximity creates situations where it's easy to build trust. But I'll have to say that of all the offices that I've worked in my whole life, in my whole career, what I have any standing, long-lasting relationships from there? One for sure, maybe two, right? Conversely, from working online, right? From working remotely, and even from doing leisure activities remotely, I I trust people in a way that I don't trust anyone else in my life. So I think that the jury is out on that one. I don't think that trust should be as tied to a physical location as most people, and certainly the people that answer this study can believe. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you're interested in discussing more ways of building trust in a remote setting, in an online setting, in a virtual setting. That seems like a nice conversation to have, but you'll be the judge of that. You let me know. And if you enjoy these little sips of coffee with me, these little conversations with me, then by all means, please subscribe. You can also find me on Think Remote. You can subscribe to the newsletter on Think Remote. We have a nice prize for people that subscribe at the time when this video is being made. But even if you're seeing this video after that and there's actually no prize for subscribing, I will tell you that the content produced there is a prize in itself, right? And it's not produced by me, right? I do the coffee chat, but I'm sure that you will enjoy it. And again, if you enjoy the coffee chat, there's a subscribe button. Don't press the bell. The bell will just inform you when a video is up. And although that would be better for me, I'm anti-distraction, so I don't want you to be distracted. But press subscribe, and then you can browse my videos at your own leisure whenever they pop up. And it's every day. So see you tomorrow. This was Virtual Coffee Chat with Luís for Think Remote. Bye-bye.